A powerful storm system is set to impact the country today, and it is expected to be even louder than your neighborhood's 4th of July fireworks. Widespread thunderstorms will develop across the Great Plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and much of the East Coast, bringing the threat of destructive wind gusts, large hail, and even a few tornadoes. If you're planning to celebrate Independence Day anywhere along the East Coast, there's a good chance the weather could interfere with your outdoor festivities. Looking ahead to next week, the large ridge of high pressure that has dominated much of the country will gradually weaken, opening the door for another round of active weather across portions of the Mid-Atlantic and the Plains. As that pattern changes, the risk of significant flash flooding and additional severe thunderstorms is expected to increase. This is the kind of weather setup that keeps everyone paying close attention, so let's dive right into today's complete forecast. We have several important forecast updates today, beginning with the severe weather outlook over the next few days. Starting with today, the 4th of July, the latest forecast now includes a Level 3 severe weather risk across portions of the East Coast, including Washington, D.C., and areas just north of Richmond. A broad Level 2 risk extends across much of the interior Northeast, while another Level 2 area covers parts of the Central Plains. In addition, a Level 1 risk stretches across cities such as Indianapolis, St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. Even residents around Minneapolis should stay alert because today's greatest concern in many of these locations will be damaging straight-line winds. In fact, the Washington, D.C. region now faces a 45% probability of experiencing damaging wind gusts within a 25-mile radius, with speeds ranging from 60 to 70 miles per hour. The threat extends from Philadelphia southward through Richmond, where numerous to widespread damaging wind events are possible. Meanwhile, across the Central Plains, including Wichita and Oklahoma City, a line of thunderstorms may organize during the evening hours, producing wind gusts that could reach nearly 80 miles per hour. Elsewhere, the primary concern remains isolated pockets of damaging winds. Large hail is another major hazard today. Some storms developing near Wichita, Kansas, and extending toward Woodward, Oklahoma, could produce hailstones as large as baseballs. Although the tornado threat remains relatively limited, a few tornadoes cannot be ruled out. The greatest tornado potential currently appears to be concentrated near Wichita and Hutchinson. If you live anywhere within this area, make sure you have multiple reliable ways to receive weather warnings throughout the day, especially if you'll be participating in outdoor 4th of July activities. We'll examine those details more closely in just a moment, but one thing is clear: it will be a very active weather day across much of the country. By Sunday, the overall severe weather threat is expected to decrease considerably for most locations. A Level 2 risk remains in place for Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Richmond, while Level 1 risks extend near Pittsburgh, New York City, Lubbock, and portions of the northern plains. Damaging winds will once again be the primary concern, with isolated large hail also possible. At this time, the tornado threat on Sunday appears extremely low, if not non-existent. Looking ahead to Monday, the only organized severe weather risk currently outlined is across parts of Minnesota and the Dakotas in the northern plains. However, future forecast updates could change that outlook, as thunderstorms may still develop across much of the Great Plains and portions of the East Coast. We'll discuss those possibilities shortly. Now let's break everything down day by day, beginning with today's 4th of July forecast. Since many people will be spending time outdoors celebrating, it's important to understand what conditions are expected in each region. We'll begin in the Midwest, where storm activity is expected to increase significantly this afternoon. Clusters of thunderstorms are forecast to develop near Davenport, Springfield, and Chicago. These storms are expected to produce mainly damaging straight-line winds, much like the storms that occurred yesterday. Yesterday's storms prompted several tornado warnings across Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois, but so far there have been no confirmed tornado reports. Instead, the damage was primarily caused by powerful straight-line winds. Today's storms are expected to follow a very similar pattern. While a brief tornado cannot be completely ruled out, the overall tornado risk remains relatively low. Residents around Lafayette and Chicago should stay weather aware throughout the afternoon. It's also important to remember that forecasting severe thunderstorms like these is extremely challenging. Small-scale weather features often develop differently than forecast models predict. Even yesterday, storms moved through Milwaukee and Chicago between roughly 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., while additional supercells unexpectedly formed around 9 p.m. across northern Illinois. Many of those developments were not fully captured by computer guidance because mesoscale severe weather is incredibly difficult to forecast with precision. Although exact timing and storm placement may change, today's forecast provides a solid overview of where storms are most likely to develop. If you live near Indianapolis or across much of Michigan, prepare for a good chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. Farther north, scattered showers and thunderstorms are also expected across Minnesota. Isolated damaging wind gusts and quarter-sized hail remain possible. Around Minneapolis, thunderstorms could develop around the same time. Many fireworks displays are scheduled to begin, with storm activity potentially continuing well into the evening hours. Make sure you have reliable ways to receive weather alerts, and always remember the simple safety rule: when thunder roars, head indoors. Conditions could become quite stormy across Minnesota tonight. Across the Central Plains, this region still appears to have the greatest potential for a tornado, although storms are expected to quickly organize into larger clusters. As that happens, the primary threat will shift toward downburst winds, capable of reaching 70 miles per hour. Kansas City and Columbia may experience active weather during the early evening, while 1 or 2 supercells developing between Wichita and Oklahoma City could briefly produce a tornado. Although the overall tornado risk remains low, it certainly is not zero. Atmospheric conditions in localized areas could briefly support tornado development before storms evolve into larger complexes. Even outside the tornado threat, widespread thunderstorms are expected from Cape Girardeau and Evansville southward through Oklahoma City and Tulsa during the evening and overnight hours. Some of those storms are expected to continue into Sunday morning as well. The highest overall severe weather threat today remains focused along the East Coast. Interestingly, forecast models do not necessarily show especially dramatic-looking storms developing during the afternoon, despite the elevated 45% damaging wind outlook. The reason is that these storms will likely be driven by extremely hot surface temperatures approaching 100 degrees and very steep lapse rates, meaning temperatures decrease rapidly with height in the atmosphere. This combination creates an environment favorable for powerful downburst winds rather than classic towering supercell thunderstorms commonly seen across Oklahoma. One of the biggest concerns is whether these individual storms merge into larger clusters. If that occurs, damaging winds could become much more widespread. Even isolated storms developing near Washington, D.C. will likely be capable of producing significant wind damage. Forecasters will also closely monitor developing storms across Pennsylvania and southern New York throughout the afternoon and evening. Around 7 to 8 p.m., many of these storms should still remain fairly scattered. After sunset, both the severe weather threat and damaging wind potential are expected to gradually decrease, although showers and thunderstorms may continue into the night. Around New York City, rainfall could continue long enough to disrupt evening fireworks celebrations. Overall, this year's 4th of July is shaping up to be less than ideal for many parts of the country. Nearly every region has at least some chance of experiencing rainfall before the day is over. Looking at the 24-hour precipitation outlook through approximately 3 a.m. tonight, widespread rainfall is expected from Oklahoma northward into Michigan. Much of the Northeast also faces a high likelihood of rain. Most of Texas should remain in relatively good shape, while the West Coast and much of the northern plains are expected to stay dry. Minnesota will likely experience repeated storms, while Wisconsin and Michigan's Upper Peninsula may see a more scattered pattern of showers and thunderstorms, with some locations remaining dry. In addition to the storms, excessive heat continues across many areas of the country. Heat index values, or feels-like temperatures, will climb well into the lower hundreds across the Carolinas, Washington, D.C., and portions of the Northeast, including New York City and Boston. It will remain dangerously hot across much of the East. There is some welcome relief, however. Across the Tennessee Valley, heat index values should remain in the middle to upper 90s, representing a noticeable improvement compared to recent days. Conditions across the Midwest will feel even more comfortable, with heat index values generally remaining in the 80s. That's a major improvement after several days of oppressive heat that pushed feels-like temperatures near 105 degrees in cities such as Minneapolis and Des Moines. By Sunday morning, those improving conditions should continue. Much of the Midwest and Ohio Valley is expected to enjoy significantly more comfortable weather throughout the remainder of the weekend. Heat index values across these regions should generally remain in the 70s and 80s, while actual afternoon temperatures become much more pleasant. The East Coast, however, will continue dealing with above-average temperatures, and several locations may once again challenge record highs. If you're hoping for clear skies during tonight's fireworks displays, the forecast is somewhat mixed. Across the Great Lakes and much of the Ohio Valley, mostly cloudy to completely overcast skies are expected. Areas stretching from Chicago toward Kansas City may remain under persistent cloud cover for much of the evening. Across the Southeast, occasional breaks in the clouds are possible, although many areas in Florida will likely stay cloudy because of afternoon thunderstorm development. The Pacific Northwest stands out as the region with the clearest conditions. Locations north and west of Colorado should enjoy nearly cloud-free skies, creating excellent viewing conditions for fireworks displays. One concern in the western United States is the elevated wildfire danger. Extremely dry conditions have persisted across Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and surrounding areas over the past couple of weeks. Relative humidity values tonight are expected to remain between 15 and 20%, meaning even a single firework could quickly ignite a wildfire. Before using fireworks, always check local burn restrictions and fire regulations. Strong winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour in some locations could allow any fire to spread rapidly. Across the Tennessee Valley, conditions are somewhat different. High pressure remains firmly established across the southeast, allowing winds to remain fairly light tonight. This creates both advantages and disadvantages. On one hand, lighter winds reduce the chance of dangerous fire spread. On the other hand, if winds become completely calm, smoke from fireworks can linger over viewing areas, making displays increasingly difficult to see. Even a gentle breeze of around 5 miles per hour can help move smoke away and improve visibility. Overall, many areas will experience favorable conditions for holiday celebrations, but today's dominant weather story remains the widespread thunderstorms affecting large portions of the country. As we move beyond the 4th of July and into Sunday, additional thunderstorms are expected across the mid-Atlantic. This pattern is typical for early July, with scattered afternoon storms capable of producing isolated, damaging wind gusts. The tornado threat remains extremely low, although a brief, isolated tornado cannot be completely ruled out. Cities including Washington, D.C., Allentown, Scranton, and Burlington could experience thunderstorms between roughly 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock p.m. Sunday afternoon. During the evening hours, storms are expected to approach New York City around 7 to 8 p.m., while areas near Salisbury and Dover may see storms closer to 8 p.m. Most of the activity should move offshore near Atlantic City and Brookhaven by approximately 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Around Cleveland and Pittsburgh, a few isolated daytime thunderstorms are possible, but the overall severe weather threat remains fairly limited. The Southeast will also experience another active summer day on Sunday. Scattered pop-up thunderstorms are expected throughout the region, with isolated damaging wind gusts serving as the primary concern. This is a very typical July weather pattern across Dixie Alley, where afternoon heating often triggers scattered storms that generally remain below severe limits. Across West Texas, Isolated severe storms may develop near Amarillo, Lubbock, and Wichita Falls. A few storms could produce damaging winds or large hail, but overall, severe weather potential remains relatively low. Farther north, the northern plains may experience one or two hail-producing storms near Minot and Walhalla. The greater concern, however, shifts into Manitoba, where atmospheric conditions appear more favorable for severe weather. Damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes are possible near and north of Winnipeg, where significant tornado parameter values may climb into the 3 to 4 range. Anyone watching from Manitoba should remain especially alert. By Monday, thunderstorms are expected to continue across portions of the northern plains. Current forecast models do not indicate widespread storm development, but parts of southern Canada could still experience a few supercells capable of producing tornadoes. South Dakota may also see isolated episodes of large hail and damaging winds. At this point, however, Monday is not expected to become a major severe weather outbreak. Tuesday currently appears to offer a greater opportunity for significant severe weather across North Dakota and Minnesota, although confidence in the exact details remains low. Future forecast updates will provide a clearer picture as the event approaches. Meanwhile, along the East Coast and throughout the Southeast, Monday is expected to resemble much of the holiday weekend. Afternoon heating will once again trigger scattered thunderstorms. The primary threats will be localized downburst winds and isolated hail. Tornado potential across the Ohio Valley remains close to zero, although these mesoscale summer storm environments occasionally produce brief spin-up tornadoes that are extremely difficult to predict in advance. One encouraging piece of news is that the prolonged heat wave will gradually begin easing by the middle of next week. Temperatures across much of the country are expected to slowly decline. Heat index values throughout the Central Plains should fall back into the 90s, while actual afternoon temperatures across Tennessee, Detroit, Milwaukee, and surrounding areas should settle into the middle and upper 80s, with some locations reaching the lower 90s. That represents meaningful relief after an extended stretch of excessive summer heat. We'll continue monitoring how these changing temperatures may influence future severe weather potential and will provide additional updates in the next forecast. Finally, with widespread thunderstorms expected across much of the country today, anyone planning outdoor activities, fireworks displays, barbecues, or holiday gatherings should pay close attention to changing weather conditions throughout the day. Stay informed by monitoring reliable weather alerts, especially if severe thunderstorms or tornado warnings are issued for your area. Thank you once again for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming forecast updates. We'll likely return tomorrow with another detailed look at the evolving weather pattern and everything expected after the holiday weekend. Until then, stay safe. Enjoy your 4th of July, and we'll see you in the next forecast video or live stream.